All right, this is MMJ 1335, of course, and we're turning to the subject of programming here today. And programming is the thing that brings you to the television or radio, for that matter, or your computer, or whatever means it is that you are consuming media. It is the thing that draws you to that media and creates an audience. And of course, broadcasters and people in media primarily are interested in attracting an audience so that that audience can be sold to advertisers. There's a term called selling eyeballs. I have a friend who was in television sales and very successful in television sales for many years, and she used to use that term of selling eyeballs, which sounds a little crude perhaps, but it is the reality. The most essential activity is the selling of audiences to advertisers. Yes, there is the public service aspect of broadcasting. It doesn't really apply to cable and the internet. But public service doesn't feed the bulldog, and as they say. And so the selling of audiences to advertisers is what occupies broadcasters and other media folks the most, and it is what they have to do to survive, to make a profit, to pay the salaries of the people who work in media, and so on. A little bit there about television ratings, which are compiled by a company called Nielsen and indicate the percentage of homes with TV watching a program. There's also something called the share, which is slightly different, but is another way of measuring TV viewing. And you can have a look there at the link down at the bottom, TV by the Numbers, which is a web page devoted entirely to television ratings. And then there's a video on how the ratings work that you might enjoy viewing there at the bottom of the page also. Scheduling becomes a major issue and concern, especially in broadcast television and cable, where they're still sending out a program at a particular time of day, followed by another program, and so on. Prime time attracts the largest audiences. That's the period of time in the evening, for the most part after dinner and before bedtime. That is when the audiences are largest, and that is where most of the attention is focused. Remote controls and DVRs, digital video recorders, and now on-demand viewing are making managing audience flow and measuring viewership much more difficult. Much more difficult to hold an audience, especially with that remote control. And there's a video there on the remote control if you'd like to see it, how it works, and so on. On-demand viewing, as you all know, has changed the game of television so that, especially a younger audience, your tendency is to watch on a smartphone or watch on a laptop or what have you. Of course, binge watching has become a major thing in television, and it is a form of television. There's a video there about binge watching. There's another one there on is binge watching bad for you? Is it a good thing to sit and watch program after program, hour after hour? But it has certainly changed television in some major ways. TV programming strategies, again, this is mostly for broadcast TV and for cable TV. Strip programming, the idea is there that you create a habit. A person creates a habit of watching a program at the same time every day. And a great example of that is The Tonight Show on NBC, which is on every evening, Monday through Friday at 10:30 or 10:35 p.m. And people have developed over the decades the habit of watching that program and other late-night talk shows every night. Block programming is the idea of scheduling similar programs one after the other. Good example of that is TBS, the cable channel, which specializes in sitcoms. Reruns of sitcoms, and you can sit and watch one after the other, and the first thing you know, a couple of hours have gone by. And that's the idea of block programming, that one programming is very much like the one before it, and that encourages people to watch for extended periods of time. Programming must be repeatable. We used to complain. I don't hear people complaining too much anymore about reruns. You see the icon of I Love Lucy up there in the corner, and Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz pretty much invented the rerun by filming I Love Lucy at a time when most programs were live. Reality programs and dramas don't do well in reruns, but sitcoms do. Interestingly, if you think about the most successful reruns, they almost all are sitcoms, and we have the Simpsons down there in the lower right-hand corner. Of course, an animated sitcom, but the Simpsons have been around now for 30-something years, and those programs are constantly rerun. So the sitcoms do well. There's a variety of theories about why they do better than dramas in particular, but you're devoting less time, 30 minutes usually, to a sitcom. You can watch a sitcom maybe for 5 minutes and enjoy several jokes and then move on from it. So you're making a little bit less of a commitment perhaps by watching a sitcom. Some general theories, and some of these are less applicable now than they used to be. The least objectionable program is certainly true of me. Maybe people my age, rather than turn off the TV if something immediately attractive to you is not there, you will watch the least objectionable program. And so I am guilty of this, turning the television on kind of mindlessly and just leaving it on and finding whatever is the least objectionable thing, and that may be a sports program, a baseball game, football game, what have you, might be the news, one of the news channels, but I won't turn it off. But that is less true, I think, today of younger audiences. Appointment television is something that is still with us, but is not as much a factor now with on-demand viewing as it was. The idea that viewers seek a program whenever it is scheduled. And the best example of that today would be if you are a sports fan, if you're a football fan in particular. If the Cowboys have a game on Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m., you make an appointment with yourself to be in front of the television at 3 p.m. You don't want to watch the program tomorrow. You don't want to watch the Cowboys game on Monday afternoon or Monday night. You want to see it as it happens. That's appointment television. It used to be the only kind of television, really, that there was. But with on-demand viewing, that has become less true. We are seeing the networks emphasize live programming more, not just sports, but other events and musicals and so on. So we had Jesus Christ Superstar done as a live event a while back, and you can see a clip of that down there, and that musical, Jesus Christ Superstar, was done live, and the networks will continue to do that. We do see a lot of reality programs. Reality programs are popular with programmers because they can be created quickly and inexpensively. The people who appear on reality programs typically are fairly ordinary people, kind of plucked out of society, and they are not therefore going to command $1 million salary per episode, as was true during the latter years of Seinfeld and Friends, where each of the cast members was making $1 million an episode. That is not true of reality programs. They're much less expensive, and the viewership may be just as good. The number of people in the audience may be just as great. And so that is a major reason why reality programs are popular. Syndicated programming is important to distinguish from network programming. There are 4 major networks, which we've talked about: NBC, CBS, ABC, and Fox. But the networks don't provide all of the programming to their channels. And then there are local television channels and cable channels that are not members of networks at all. And then they, for the most part, buy their programming. They acquire their programming from programming producers. So in syndicated programming, the programs, and this can be television or radio, the programs are sold to individual stations in many markets. and then those programs are scheduled on a local basis. And you have first-run syndication, which a good example of that is the Ellen Show, talk show. And then you have off-network syndication, and by that we're usually talking about, in fact, that is the definition of that is reruns, and again, primarily sitcoms. These are programs that have been on a network. Now they're off the network, and they're in reruns. If you're a sports fan, I think you'll enjoy that video, Turning NFL Football into Primetime Television. That's a video about producing a football game for television, an NFL game. I think you'll find that very interesting. Children's television, we have been very concerned, very interested for a long time about the influence of television on children. We talked about the fact that there was a television code for many years that went away. Since 1996, there has been something called the V chip, and V stands for violence. And the V chip has been installed in every television set built since 1996. A lot of parents aren't even aware of it. It does allow parents to block certain programs and even certain channels so that children cannot watch those programs or watch those channels. We have a TV rating system, program ratings. This is ratings in the sense of content ratings in the way that movies are rated as appropriate for certain ages and so on. We do have a TV rating system that is tied to the V chip, and there are some promos there that you can look at and learn more about those subjects. I'm going to skip past local programming and local cable programming. You can look at those on your own if you like. Radio is holding its own. You can look at a link there that shows that radio listening remains strong. It's not as great as it once was. Radio does have some problems, especially with younger audiences, but radio is still doing pretty well. HD radio has come along as a digital option for local radio, and is still out there in the period of development and gaining popularity. It still really hasn't caught on as much as the broadcasters hope that eventually it will. All right, so there's a little bit of talk and information about programming for television and for on-demand viewing and radio. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.